I'm Jason Klamm, and this is the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. The year's 1986, the album Polka Party. The artist, you might guess, is Weird Al Yankovic, and my guest is Eddie Schmidt. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm happy to be here with you.
I'm so glad that you asked to come on because, first of all, we've never done this album, as you probably noticed. That's question number one. Why this one out of all the Weird Al albums?
Because you've never done it.
All right, easy enough. Easy enough. Wait, was there another one you would have done if it wasn't this one?
Yeah, I think I was. My first gut instinct was to go for the UHF soundtrack album because I saw it fitting in an interesting pantheon of comedy albums in the sense that because it has bits from the film, it has what would be sort of sketch type elements that don't exist on his other records, and in that way more fall in line from say Python type albums. And I thought it was interesting that he had an instrumental on it that's very good, and then of course the Spatula City and Gandhi 2 commercials, and just it doesn't follow the sort of parody original format of the others. So I thought, let's talk about that, and it's underrated. And then you'd done it, and I thought, okay, but you've never done Polka Party.
That's true.
Which I think was a huge time. The 1986, 87 years were a big part of my initial Weird Al fandom. Yeah. And in some ways sort of a darker time for his career because it was not a successful record.
Yeah, it's so weird to me.
Not initially.
That and UHF, and what was the other? There was one other that has not. Those two I think are his biggest flops, oddly, but.
Yeah, and I think maybe the first album probably wasn't as big as the others. And it's interesting because Polka Party has one of the most enduring originals, which is Dog Eat Dog.
Absolutely.
Talking Heads parody.
Absolutely.
And to me, that is the gold standard by which all Talking Heads spoofs should be judged. And I think when you've seen him do it live in the white suit and the kind of like faux girlfriend is better, stop making sense intro, like he really, it's still part of his catalog today. It's a great song. Yeah. The Onion, the AV Club, did a whole piece about how it kind of presages Office Space and this whole idea.
Well, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, okay.
Of work culture, and when the which was also brilliant, the Documentary Now spoof that they did earlier this year of Stop Making Sense. I thought, well, can this be as good as Dog Eat Dog?
Right.
And it was truly excellent.
Yeah,
I think they called the band Test Pattern, Fred Armisen and Bill Hader thing, and the songs are of that level. Like they could be good Talking Heads songs on their own. And that's how I feel about Dog Eat Dog. Like it's just a great song.
Sure.
And it's really funny, and it holds up.
Yeah.
And then another track on that I think is maybe doesn't endure in quite the same way, but it is still incredibly funny, is Living with a Hernia. Because you just have to imagine at that time, like, hey Al, we're looking for another hit single. Great, I've got the record. I want to do Living in America. And of course, I'm sure at the time, it would have been like, oh, you'll do Living in Siberia or some kind of like Yakov Smirnoff style. Like that would have been the prevailing sort of hack comedy
That's
wisdom.
true, yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm going to do a song about hernias.
Because he's screaming. It's perfect.
Right. And so you get this sort of double parody because it's sort of like, oh, right, the James Brown is now an old man doing these dance routines and could likely hurt himself, and then instead of the rundown of cities, you get the brilliant rundown of all the different types of hernias that you could get. And you've seen Weird Al live, right?
Only a couple times, unfortunately.
Have you seen him? Did you? Because he doesn't do it anymore. But did you ever see him do Living with a Hernia?
So when I saw him the first time, the most recent times have just been very recent. The first time was like 2000. So no, I don't think so. He didn't even do the Talking Heads. He didn't even do Dog Eat Dog, which makes me sad.
He'll pull out like old originals, from time to time for the fans, which we appreciate. And but Living with a Hernia, I guess, because it's an old parody and wasn't one of the huge ones. But when he did it, which I think was at least through maybe the Alapalooza tour, I guess.
Okay.
He would do it with the full James Brown intro.
It's so good.
So Bermuda Schwartz would be keeping a beat and go, ladies and gentlemen, let me please introduce you to, and they had this whole list of attributions, the Ayatollah of rock and roll, pow, the Prince of Wales, pow, the Prince of Tides, bam, the Chicken of the Sea, bam, just the most ridiculous.
Of course.
And just kept going and going and going. And it was really wonderful. And then he would come out full regalia. He did the trick with the mic stand that he does in the video, which is not easy to do.
No.
Had the guy with the cape coming after him and would really drag it out. Like, he's one of the great showmen, one of the great live performers of all time.
Absolutely.
And I actually saw James Brown at the Greek Theater.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I feel fortunate that in my lifetime, I feel like I've seen a lot of saw Prince and feel like, it's important to go and see the legends when you can.
Sure, yeah.
But Weird Al, I've easily seen a dozen Weird Al concerts, and he always puts on the mathematically impossible 110% show. Like, no matter where you are. Like, this last summer I went to see him at the Oregon Zoo. I just happened to be or Portland Zoo in Oregon, I guess. And I thought, this is interesting because I usually see him in New York or LA.
Sure.
What will he be like outside of a major media capital? He was incredible. He did a great performance. It wasn't like he held back or phoned it in because he wasn't in like a major market. No way. Like, he went for it. And everybody in the audience appreciates how much he puts into the performance.
Sure.
So I would hope that at some point we'll get to see Living with a Hernia live again, because it really is a spectacle.
He's the kind of guy who I would imagine doesn't believe in flyover states. He just doesn't give a shit. As long as you're there to see him,
yes,
the love just pours out, and and the more you're making me think about this, and I hadn't thought about it. Let me grab the album just because it's fun to look at when we're talking about it. But Living with a Hernia is one of those that I don't auditorially confuse it with Like a Surgeon. They're similar enough in terms of being about something medical. Like, in my head, they're slightly confused. But, like, just that list of hernias, that is to do the research. That is the nerdiest damn thing in the world. Like, he's such a pure nerd.
Way pre-Google, by the way.
Right.
We're talking about library research.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like the pure nerdiness. And I'm not talking about from perspective, everybody looks at him the same. Oh, he's got glasses, so he's a nerd. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who, like, loves his craft so much that he'll research hernias.
Yeah, it's scientific comedy.
Yeah.
He if you're going to do a song about hernias, you're not just going to just do it by rote, or you're actually going to research hernias. Like, of course you would. And then, there's another track on here which continues to endure. In fact, now has a resurgence because the lexicon of the title has changed again. So for a long time, Christmas at Ground Zero was not played on radio because of 9/11.
Yeah.
Well, Ground Zero obviously, meant something else from bombings years ago. It was not just associated with 9/11. Right. And so the cultural sensitivity shifted, but this song was a great satire of a great Cold War spoof. Yeah. With this incredible Phil Spector track, or an original song, but done in the style of great production and really, Tom Lehrer level of genius.
Yes.
Of just like super smart wordplay, super intelligent jokes, a great video that rivals the Devo Beautiful World video.
Yeah.
Like, really smart. Has a spoken word piece in the video from Ronald Reagan that's not in the song, where he says...
It's been a while since I've seen it.
He says something like, well, kids... the big day is just around the corner, and I hope you're looking forward to it as much as I am, or something like that.
That's right.
But it's like a creepy, look, I was a teenager in the 80s, and the Cold War, was still very real to us.
Sure.
And so the idea of this Yuletide song about duck and cover really was quite delicious satirically. And in the scary Trump era, I think we're seeing that this song can be appreciated again for the message that it had.
It's absolutely true. I do like to hop back to older Weird Al tracks, like specifically this, and I don't know if it's my favorite, but I think it's one of my favorites in terms of nobody brings it up. Is Trigger Happy, and I just like his satire is not appreciated, but I think it's also okay because it gets under the radar for everybody. So and that's how it ought to work,
Yeah, well, it's interesting because he has a lot of really sharp, biting satire in his songs, and if you're only paying attention to the most popular parodies, you wouldn't necessarily know.
100%.
But what he's doing, I think, did for generations, not just us, but like, look at the Lonely Island guys who love him, and Seth Meyers and all these people. Like, if you were a fan and you bought the album, not only did you get really sharp, satire beyond maybe what you would have expected as a kid hearing this eat it on the radio, but you also got introduced to all this great music that he was doing these style parodies or pastiches of.
Yeah.
And so, and particularly with the Al TV specials, I felt like I was introduced to a ton of music through Weird Al. Like I became a B-52's Devo hardcore fan because of Weird Al. They Might Be Giants. He was playing Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head on Al TV. And so all this stuff, the great Oingo Boingo, you know, all of which that I've just mentioned, he's done parodies of. You know, the Oingo Boingo one on Even Worse, You Make Me is great. I mean, it's everything. Craig's all the way up to Craigslist of the Doors. Like it's staggering. The breadth and depth of the musicality, but I think it opens so many doors for kind of smart, weird kids like us to go, wow, there's not only a world out there of sort of smart subversion, but a world out there of music.
Yeah.
And to really get an appreciation for both.
Absolutely. I was the kind of nerd who, like, so I discovered him. Maybe around the time this came out, but I lived in Germany at the time, and so we had like limited shit that we were exposed to. And usually like a year later than everybody else was getting it. So then I come over here, and my best friend loves Weird Al. Well, my eventual best friend loves Weird Al, and I was like, that's what solidifies our friendship. And like I missed out, so I still feel like I'm playing catch up on what some of the music was, which is weird.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, because right, it's so American, you know, in its point of view and perspective. So that is interesting. I there's definitely a bonding thing for me and my close friends, and we're still tight. As a matter of fact, my two best friends since 8th grade, we were all together at that concert in Portland that I just mentioned.
So good. That's amazing.
Yeah. And Weird Al was a huge thing for us actually around the first album. So I wasn't living in Germany, I was living here, and one of my friend Jason had it, and you know, we, the three of us, were the nucleus of my parody band Schmidt. So because you know, yes, I have this whole career as a documentary filmmaker and TV showrunner, but at that age, I thought, well, maybe I can be another Weird Al, not the next Weird Al. I didn't want to replace Weird Al. I thought the world was big enough for more Weird Als. It wasn't. It was not. So as Schmidt, like, we did a song called Fruit Loops that was a parody of Footloose by Kenny Loggins. We also did originals. You know, they were ridiculous.
These are all things I'm going to demand to listen to.
I like
to
play
some
with
point.
my face. That was an original. We thought we would follow. You know, it wasn't going to happen for me though.
That's so good though. I love that you went to the effort. Yeah, you did it. Like, you at least tried. That is. Oh
yeah, I mean, I sent cassettes.
Gutsy,
I was a really ambitious kid, so like I was sending those cassettes to like Rhino Records and stuff. Like I thought, why can't I get like a deal? You know,
right?
Like, I'm a kid doing funny music. And Rhino Records, like, the guy called me at home. Like, he was really nice, actually.
Awesome.
He said I should send it to Weird Al, which, of course, Weird Al doesn't want anyone else's ideas. So, of course, that was not good advice, but I appreciate the effort that he made. I did not send it to Weird Al because I knew better not to send my stupid ideas.
Well done.
Yeah. But that's interesting that you came in later. I feel like I came in just as the first album had peaked.
Yeah.
And then I was with him the whole time.
That's
like
perfect.
And what's interesting, I think you experienced it in the culture when Mandatory Fun became the #1 album. Like, those of us that hung in there, this was like our victory.
100%.
We were like in it together. And so I felt that way for all his victories. You know, for Eat It, I remember, you know, seeing him on, like, there's this talk show in New York when I was growing up called Live at 5 that was like, that, you know, that was like, if you were the guest on Live at 5, like, you were there promoting a movie, like, it was a big deal. So the fact that, like, oh my God, here's this goofball that we love, who's this underground Dr. Demento thing, he's on Live at 5.
So
like,
good.
Wow, you know, we were amazed. And so all those little victories along the way, UHF, everything, it felt like a milestone for Weird Al was also a milestone for us. Those of us that were the fans.
See, that's so good. Like, I hit it at a point where, like, he was just there. He was ubiquitous, I think, at least for nerds, you know. And as far as we knew, he would always be there, you know. And it was nice having that. But so you grew up in New York City?
I was born in Staten Island, and then we moved to Connecticut when I was in 7th grade, and that's when I found these guys, fellow weirdos. And so it was just at the point where between the first and second album. So it was like you got in on the ground floor, and then it was like he was the quote unquote overnight pop culture sensation. Like he crossed to the mainstream with Eat It and the 3D album. And yeah, I mean, like I, would tape on VHS all the TV appearances. Like it was because I think, and it's interesting. I think the people sort of just before us generationally in comedy didn't get it. Like I always felt like the SNL, a lot of people that I love, like I felt like they didn't get what was great about Weird Al.
Sure.
Because they were not young enough. They were like they were the previous generation's comedy. And so what you've seen now is all the appreciation of the generations that came after. But at the time, like I felt like, oh, this is something new, but it's the comedy I can relate to most because it combines all the things I love. It's music, it's funny, and it's visual. It's like he's making little funny movies with music, and his persona. Like it was just a great kind of joke on all of pop culture. Like not just the song, but the image of the artist.
Sure.
But the pomposity of the video, like. It sort of was everything in one package that I thought, well, that's what I'm about comedically. Like Mad Magazine, like writ large.
Yeah. I think, and that's one thing that people miss about Weird Al is that at the end of his career, when he's, I think in our hopes 150, it's going to be a collection that becomes a thesis more than anything else. It's like, yes, okay, we get it. Yes, we all know he makes jokes about TV and food, but there's a reason for that. A, it's important. B, it's in the zeitgeist. C, it's always going to be very American. So it's like celebration, satire, it's pastiche all at the same time. I think it's all going to say something at the end.
Yeah.
It already does. It's already relevant.
Well, right. And I think also, too, that I think he showed that you can do high and low comedy. You can have a very broad joke, ostensibly a very broad joke with some very sly wordplay and innuendo and other things buried within it. And I think all the humor, whether it's South Park or whatever, all takes that approach of like, no, we're not just doing, erudite, literate comedy. We're doing comedy for everyone. So it has a range of dumb jokes, smart jokes, dirty jokes, political everything is all within the realm of the wellspring of humor.
Yeah.
So, it was, I was the kid, I don't know. So now when you were growing up, I would listen to Dr. Demento every Sunday night.
See, this is a thing I never got.
Okay.
I live upstate New York, did not have access.
Where in upstate New York?
Oneonta.
Okay. So my mom's family is from Frankfurt, which is in the Utica area.
Yeah. That's where a lot of my family is too.
Okay.
So yeah. Well, but we didn't get it. We didn't get much in the range of radio. So Dr. Demento, I didn't know what he was. I hadn't even heard of him until late high school, which had been the late 90s for me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, what the fuck is Dr. Demento? And I'm like, oh, so he's the reason I have Weird Al. That's insane,
right.
And that's weird to me that I didn't know.
Well, what was cool about Dr. Demento is, now it's an era where you can find anything, right? And you can find anything quickly.
Sure.
Via the internet. At that time, there was a mainstream pervasive culture, and then there was really an underground culture where, like, you had to go looking for stuff. There weren't signposts. It wasn't an easy thing as a portal to get to. So if among the kids who knew, Dr. Demento was a show that was on usually Sunday nights in most markets, late. I think it was on like 9 or 10 o'clock. So I would set a cassette tape. I'd go to Radio Shack and get like the super like 120, that, and then my boombox would automatically flip to the other side, so I could get all 2 hours of the show.
All right, okay.
So I would sort of like listen under the covers. My mom would tell me to go to bed, and then I would like turn the sound down, but make sure it was recording so that the next morning I had everything. And then you'd listen to it while you got ready for school. And then you'd go in and trade the tapes at school or talk about like, oh, did you hear last night on the Funny Five? And so Weird Al was, of course, the big discovery. But the whole show had, I can still sing songs that were probably never even released on record from songs about nuns and songs about cars and nose jobs and all this stuff. Like it was this kind of freaky thing. And so the fact that you had to like listen late at night under the covers and only 8 kids at school knew about it. Like it made it this cool, weird thing. And then that's why to see Weird Al on Carson or something seemed all the more remarkable because it wasn't this sort of, back alley media exposure. It was the mainstream.
Yeah.
And
God, yeah. I mean, there's not a lot to compare with that. I mean, nowadays, I every once in a while I'll be like, oh, that's cool. I remember seeing that guy start on YouTube, and now he's got a major television show. But that's kind of seems to be what everybody wants to do and gets to do. But yeah, that is unusual. So you definitely had the radio experience before seeing him on TV, right?
Yeah, well, and we didn't have MTV. In fact, we didn't have cable. Okay. So that's a really great question. When did I first see Weird Al? I think I'm going to say I must have definitely heard the songs. Like the whole first album was just based on it being funny. Like I remember playing it for my dad, who's a great lover of comedy, like playing him My Bologna. And when it comes to the belch part, and he just laughed. And I would like rewind it and play it over for him. Like he was totally down with Weird Al. And I don't know. I guess I probably didn't see him. I must have gone to a friend's house to see the Eat It video, or maybe it was on like Casey Kasem's America's Top 10. Like I was laughing just at the musical jokes before seeing the video, and then it blew my mind because it was like on double level. You know?
That's the perfect experience, man.
Yeah, it was because it was so gradual. Good. It was gradual. I had to like earn it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did not have cable, so I remember going. Like I would try to make sure that I could be at friends' houses when Al TV was on.
Oh, so good.
And I still in my garage, I still have the VHS tapes of Al TV, which you can see on YouTube.
Yeah,
so
you can.
I could throw out the VHS, but I haven't quite brought myself.
I got that.
Yeah.
Do you think? Okay, so. It's I don't know. What do you have a theory as to why this album flopped? I have a couple theories, but they're complete conjecture. So I don't know.
I think it's interesting. I was trying to figure that out, and Weird Al, who's very analytical, has probably thought a lot about this. I think if you look, this could be random. I could be wrong, but I think his most successful stuff comes out in the spring or the summer.
Okay.
This is, I believe, the only album that came out in the fall, and it came out
really
in late October.
Okay.
Probably didn't hit a lot of stores until November. So it was kind of in that realm when pop culture had a slower burn. Like now it's like, something comes out, we all know about it.
Sure.
Back then, not so much. So by the time this thing like got on the charts and Living with a Hernia was on MTV, like it's almost already Thanksgiving. And so then like just I think it just got swallowed up a little bit just in terms of the timing of it. And then I think for all of its comedic lasting power for Living with a Hernia, probably at the time, it maybe just felt too weird. Like people probably, a lot of the intended audience maybe went, what's a hernia?
Yeah, that's also a good point.
I was very excited, by the way, at age 19 when I actually got a hernia. And I was like, I am living the song. And so I forget what type I had. Maybe inguinal.
That's a true nerd. That is a true nerd.
In fact, I think I was probably singing the song as I went in for surgery.
You know, I'm thinking about this. Like, as I'm looking at it, okay, so I knew that I grew up mostly listening to In 3D with my best friend.
Sure.
But then I kind of am realizing, oh shit, but a lot of my favorite songs are on this one, but I don't remember ever listening to this one all the way through. I'll have to ask Dan if we ever did listen to this, because I don't remember him owning it. But like, there were I played Good Enough for Now at his wedding. Like these are all very important to me, and it's weird to me that I don't remember listening to this album at all. I wonder why that is. I also think it's, as far as the cover, while I like the cover, I think it's his least dynamic cover. And I wonder if that in any way affects it. I love it. And actually, the more I look at it, I like it more. But I feel like the other ones, maybe they're just so bombastic. There's just so much going on them. Bright colors. This is funny. This is like, I think it takes a second to get. If you don't notice that there are punks in the background,
right,
of this dipshit in the foreground playing an accordion.
Right. I love that they really have like a lot of dangerous looking punks.
It's great.
And then on the back that they've got the guy with the purple hair reading Polka World magazine, and the girl looking on has her mouth agape. Like it is funny, and maybe actually it wasn't obvious enough. Like if you'll notice, he didn't. I guess. But interestingly enough, another underrated album, Poodle Hat, did not do that well. And that, too, had a similar, it's just a strange visual joke. It's not an obvious parody.
Right.
You don't get it right away.
Yeah.
And maybe with this, too, maybe people who were just kind of dumb were like, oh, he's doing a real album of polkas? That doesn't sound funny.
God, that's scary.
Like they didn't get the joke.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
P.S. This is one of the great polka medleys.
It is. It really is. It's solid.
And we should point out another thing about Weird Al, like I love, is like if he's got a great musical joke on the record and he can make it a little better live, he will do it. Like live when they did Polka Party, they didn't just end with Papa Don't Preach. They also threw in, maybe they couldn't get permission for it or whatever, but Everybody Have Fun Tonight.
Oh.
If you see him do it live, go look at MTV. It's a great performance. MTV New Year's Eve Ball from 1986.
Okay.
He ends, and he's got the full band in Lederhosen. Joe Piscopo is the host, by the way. That dates it for you.
Holy
but
shit.
he ends with the polka medley with a rousing "Everybody Have Fun Tonight, Everybody Weird Al Tonight."
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I mean, I'm realizing now, like, I'm looking at it for the first time. You understand? I own this.
Right.
I'm paying attention to the cover. It's for that, like, my dumbness sometimes will have that, like, I have all these albums and I love Weird Al, but I've never paid close attention to this album cover.
I would spend a lot of time. This is how nerdy I am. I would spend a lot of time reading the liner notes, even down to the special thanks. I love that the inside
a lot of great stuff
pictures on the inside were taken by sticking the band. Al and the band put their faces on a Xerox machine. That's wonderful.
It's beautiful.
And then you must know this. Maybe you don't, but I'm going to tell you.
I may not.
So inside the vinyl, in the groove, is a message
What?
that he's etched. So on this one, it says, "Where's my liquid paper?" from Dog Eat Dog.
Holy crap.
Is etched, and you never noticed that before?
No.
Oh, there.
This is the first time I've had to break it out.
Look on all the vinyl. I wonder if because they're going to remaster his catalog and put it out.
I know.
And I actually wondered for the ones that were never
they do
released
this
on vinyl,
right.
if they'll put new messages.
That's it.
But on even worse, I think it's etched 100 million, because I believe that's right. Like on Bad, I think Michael Jackson had etched 10 million or something like that. So he had etched 100 million. But all of them, I believe, or several of them have
That's amazing.
an etched in, "Where's my liquid paper?"
How the hell have I not heard that before now? Thank you. See,
No,
you just
sure.
opened up my friggin'
No
world,
problem.
man.
Listen, I'm a true collector. I would, I would go on searching for like the 12-inch promo singles of Living with Hernia and Christmas at Ground Zero.
I have this weird dream of wanting to do, because I enjoy bowling, and I have 2 copies of one of his singles, and I want to have one of them embedded in a bowling ball.
That's a brilliant idea.
Right? Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, you should do that. He's on the cover of a bowling magazine this month.
Really?
Yeah, I thought you must know that because you're telling me the story.
No.
Yeah, Bowler's Journal. He's like the February 2017 issue. He's on the cover.
Holy shit. That's
So you gotta
friggin'
do it.
great. I really want to badly. Like, I was trying to think what would go in a bowling ball if I could afford to get that done.
that's
I'm like, it would be a
brilliant.
Weird Al single. Like, that's
Genius.
the only thing that would go in there.
Yeah.
And it would be lightweight, wouldn't throw it off. Anyway, okay.
Well, you were saying, but I was going to
Yes.
say, you don't remember listening to this album. I
No.
will tell you that, okay, so through the various formats in my lifetime, I've bought this album, I'm going to say twice on cassette,
Okay.
twice on vinyl, twice on CD, once digitally, and I've bought the individual singles. So that's a good chunk of income.
What is the reason for buying them twice?
Well, I think that, what's the reason? The cassettes, I wore out the cassette.
okay, that's reasonable. Sure.
Maybe I only bought the CD once, but I did buy it digitally because the CD, I don't know if the iTunes quality sounded better or anyway, I've bought it many times. But I did also was on a car trip once where it was in college. We was like friends and then friends of friends, and you're driving back, from a place, and you realize along the way that you all hate each other, or like half of you hate each other.
Yeah.
And so the guy driving was a complete asshole. And so my friend Mark, who was a big Weird Al fan, we stopped at a truck stop and we bought Polka Party on cassette for the express purpose of playing it in the car and driving this guy insane, which we did do.
Well done.
I think he actually threw us out of the car and we had to find another ride. I'm not even joking.
My God.
But we were thrilled because we loved Weird Al and we hated this guy.
Sure.
He was a douche.
I want to talk about, so the Dr. Demento thing.
Yeah.
Now, we've only had, I could be wrong. We've had Dan Pasternak on, who I know had a song on Dr.
Yeah,
Demento.
he beats me. He actually got on the air.
He got on the air, and his dad got him a bunch of 45s cut, and Dan, I know you're listening. I still want one of those badly. This is an experience I didn't get. Like even if I had gotten rejected, which probably would have broken my little heart, but The idea of sending. So what did you send into Dr. Demento?
I sent in cassettes. Let's see. I have 2 rejection letters here. There may have been more. These are the only ones that I could find. They're yellowed on Dr. Demento stationery. First of all, I give him credit because, again, we have YouTube now. You can upload anything. Back then, you couldn't get your song on the radio.
No.
You couldn't do that. So the fact that there was a guy in Los Angeles who would listen to your cassettes, probably most of them horrible, including mine, and pick a few and play them, what a gateway.
Yeah.
What a precious gift. I just didn't get that gift, but it was a nice goal. I will say that I did get some of my songs played on local radio.
You did? Awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
I did, and that hearing your song come out of a radio is just like they describe it, just like the scene in That Thing You Do, except that I was 14 and in my pajamas. But there was a show on the college station, WXCI. What the hell was it called? I can't. On some underground or something. But they played my song "Geeky Rap." Thank you very much. But we were not able to get Dr. Demento to do it. But here's what he wrote: June 4th, 1985. Dear Eddie, many belated thanks for sending the tape of songs by Schmidt. Great name. I thought, yes. Regrettably, I'm unable to include these in the show at this time. We receive many fine tapes each week, and there simply isn't enough airtime for all the deserving ones. If you come up with any more comedy/novelty material in the future, though, I'd be interested in hearing it. Thanks for the Dr. Demento logo, too. I must have drawn something.
Awesome.
Or maybe I did like a station ID or something.
Okay.
Stay demented, Dr. Demento. And then this time he actually mentioned the songs. The second one. I tried again. This was only about 8 months later, February 3rd, 1986. Dear Eddie, thanks so much for the tape of Wait a Minute, which was an original song written by my dad.
Awesome.
My dad was sharing my dream here. And Like a Freshman. Yes, that's right. Even though Weird Al had done Like a Surgeon, I thought that my high school comedic take on the song Like a Freshman would somehow still get airplay. It was very insightful.
So good.
Alas, I'm unable to use these on the show at the present time. Gee, I wonder why. I really appreciate your interest and hope you keep at it with the demented tunes. It wouldn't surprise me if you came up with a hot one before too long, especially with a name like Schmidt. Well, I didn't come up with a hot one.
Right.
I did then, as I mentioned before we were recording, start a sort of Beastie Boys style rap group called Molly Ringworm. And I did wind up getting some local Connecticut success out of that.
Awesome.
Local cool record stores sold us on an indie compilation. We did a heavy metal song about Mr. Rogers called Burn the Trolley. We attained some minor level of Connecticut-based indie rock mid-'80s success. But my career obviously was not to be. I was not meant to be a funny music maker full-time. Apparently.
Were you, now I have to wonder though, like, I have a feel, were you writing these with like, Dr. Demento's going to like this? Or was it sheer joy in making it? Or was there in the back of your mind that's like, no, this is going to go, Dr. Demento's going to like this
I hoped
shit.
it was going to go. I think I actually did continue to send him some solo songs even into the early 90s, which by then I think he gave up on me and didn't even send me a letter back, but I don't blame him. But Schmidt, by the way, was a performing entity. Like I was performing at the Town Park Pool with my band. Like we had a whole show. So I think we felt like, this is fun and we're doing it. And that the Dr. Demento was like the pinnacle. Like that was our version of Carson or Letterman. Like if we could just get on Demento, that would be amazing. Like that blow your mind.
Yeah.
So we were going to continue to do it regardless.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
did.
Do you still have any of the old tapes of the shows?
Of the Demento shows.
Yes.
Those Radio Shack cassettes probably did not hold up. I have my songs, which I preserved on a slightly better quality of like Maxell or TDK cassette.
Okay, good. Right.
But I don't know if I have any Demento shows.
I'm not going to pressure you too much. But at some point, if you send me, I would love, I keep asking people, if you've got, Rich Scheidner is going to send me his first stand-up set ever. Of all the time from 40 some years ago.
Wow.
He's got the tape and he's like, yeah, I'll send it to you. So I like, these are things, again, I'm here to expose your childhood secrets.
Well, the Molly Ringworm stuff exists. That I believe is actually online.
Awesome.
So that I can point you toward.
Okay, good.
The Schmidt stuff has not really seen the light of day. Perhaps it could.
Sure.
Fruit Loops maybe deserves to see the light of day. We did do a tasteless parody of John Fogerty's The Old Man Down the Road is the Old Man in the Nursing Home. Maybe that. He wears his bedpan on his head. Perhaps that needs to come out. I don't know.
I love this.
It can't hurt my career at this point because it's so divergent from my actual career.
Did you know? Now, I don't know if you're aware of this. I don't know if you have a record shop you prefer. But at Record Surplus, I've gone to a few times. Sorry, guys, this is local LA talk.
Love Record Surplus.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Have you ever found when they've got full Demento shows on vinyl there?
Yeah, I have. I haven't been
wanted to buy them
tempted.
so bad.
On eBay, sometimes you'll see them, but they're like $250 a pop.
Woo! Yeah, they're
Yeah.
cheaper at Record Surplus
Yes.
at least. But yeah, still, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
There are ones. The ones I wanted to get actually were the ones that had the interviews with Weird Al. 'Cause
Okay,
there were
sure.
a number of really good shows over the years where Demento would have him on as like the centerpiece guest, and he would play once again, play his own stuff, but would also play stuff he loved. He would
so
play
good.
Tony O'Kay,
Uh-huh.
who is really great and satirical and just musically cool. And so once again, like he always, tipped the hat to other great music.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard any of those interviews either. I think I would probably really like them.
They're really good because they're essentially peers. So so there's sort of a shorthand there, like about making the stuff.
Yeah.
And you feel like again, like they're sort of in on it together.
Yeah.
The steps of his career. And I did bring with me. So now I was fortunate enough. I've had when I was, I guess it was maybe I was around 15, I guess. A family friend of mine who was producing a radio show in LA at the time. His name was Kenny Wolin. When they had Weird Al on the show, he had Weird Al call me at home.
Oh my God.
And that was super cool.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. And I was like so nervous and it was like a 5-minute phone call, but like that Weird Al did it and was super nice. And then they sent me like a bunch of autographed stuff and like,
wow.
Yeah, I got a Like a Surgeon picture disc, like for
Wow.
the 45. Yeah, it's
I've
really
never
cool.
seen that. That's awesome.
It's super cool. And excuse me, that's the kind of stuff like, by the way, super nice man.
Yes.
I met him a couple of times. And always really good to fans. Like that's how you have a lasting career for decades. Like you are always cool to the people who are supporting your work. And so I'm just a 15-year-old kid in Connecticut. He doesn't have to, he's on his way out the door from a morning radio show. He can, I'm tired. I have I don't want to talk to this kid, but he did. And he did it with like total like enthusiasm and grace. And I remember like I was like very adamant. I was like, I just want to tell you that I think One More Minute is a great song. And he was like, oh, thank you. Like, because I knew that he didn't get as much love for the originals. And even then at 15, I was like, the originals are amazing.
Yeah.
I've got to let him know. Like I thought he needed my validation.
Right. Of course.
So I joined the fan club, which was at the time close personal friends of Al.
Yeah.
Again, clever, mocking, both celebrating the fans, but mocking the idea of fan clubs. And so they had a contest for the Complete Al, which was a Showtime special and VHS tape. And if you were the winning entry, you would get an autographed Complete Al poster.
Man.
I was the winning entry.
So good.
So
good.
I am holding my Close Personal Friends of Al newsletter, Volume 1, Issue 3 from 1986. And if you wouldn't mind, can I read you
please do.
my entry?
Are you
Now,
kidding?
they titled it, I think I probably sent it in without a title, but they titled it The Complete Al, a review by Eddie Schmidt. Who could blame them because I didn't give them a title. But here's what it says. The Complete Al contest has a winner. After memorizing and evaluating each and every entry, Al's illustrious staff chose this offering from Eddie Schmidt of Sandy Hook, Connecticut. The Complete Al, a review by Eddie Schmidt. The Complete Al by Weird Al Yankovic brings an ecstasy usually only associated with Batman Pez dispensers. My favorite caricature, not caricature, I thought I was being clever. My favorite caricature is Barry Cohen, who is a terrific parody of fast-talking managers. Of course, Weird Al is brilliant. In performance and in 8 classic video clips. It is Al who utters the program's immortal line, okay. The Complete Al is the best 100 minutes you'll ever spend, unless you are locked in a room with Christy Brinkley and a trunk of Cool Whip. And then it's at press time, Eddie was unavailable for comment or deliberately not answering his phone. I think I probably didn't give my phone number, but I want to say, I have no basis, there's no basis in fact. I will just say, this is 1986. I said, locked in a room with Christy Brinkley and a trunk of Cool Whip. On the next album, even worse, was a song called Stuck in a Closet with Vanna White. Perhaps the seed of inspiration somewhere in this contest entry? I don't know. And it never even occurred to me until I pulled it out now. And I was like, wait a minute. supermodel,
Mm-hmm.
letter turning spokesgirl.
Sure.
Locked in a room, stuck in a I don't know.
They're not. It's.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that you're
Maybe
the
he
reason.
just realized like, oh, this is my fan base. I'm going to target them with something they'll love.
That's also true. That's also true. I got to tell you, that is the perfect voice for anything that Weird Al has. That's perfect. That's exactly. I can see why they chose it. That's adorable. I mean, not just
Thank
adorable.
you.
It's really fucking funny.
Thank you. Well, and it meant a lot to me. And then of course the poster came, and it was banged up.
Oh.
I mean, I still have it.
Sure.
And it said something like, it was really, truly, it wasn't just he signed it in a pile. It said something like, may your life be filled with Pez dispensers and Cool Whip. I might have it on my phone. I could quote it for sure. But it was a great thing. I hung it in my college dorm room. I hung it, and it was a little bit banged up. And so my mom, who I think might have helped me with that, said, oh, well, you should send another letter saying, thank you so much, but unfortunately, the mailman was not a close personal friend of Al. Could I have another one? Which was a little bit kind of maybe ballsy, but I did it. They did not send me another one. I don't blame them. I was very happy to have this, and I still have it today.
That's
It's still in my possession. And it meant a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thrilled. Like, I'm in the Close Personal Friends of Al
Freaking
newsletter.
great. That's
like, I
freaking
thought
great.
life can only just keep getting better.
Of course. Now, under what circumstances have you met him?
I met, none of which will be memorable to him.
Sure.
I'm sure.
As it always is, yeah.
It was, so that, I guess you could say, when he called me when I was a kid. Then I met him again. Did I talk? I met him. He hosted the Billboard Music Video Awards at it was a nice hotel. I'm forgetting. It was Ma Maison. It's on La Cienega and Beverly. Really nice hotel. Huge event. I had just come to live in LA to follow my own dream in the movie and TV world. And I ponied up for myself and my friend. It was probably like $50 a pop. So for me, $100 at the time, I was probably only making $300 a week.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
a huge deal. But I was like, this will be an industry event. Like I can go, and he's not playing to the rafters. It's for whoever's in this room. Like, and he's the host, so he's essentially doing like Weird Al stand up.
Yeah.
He was great. He showed the video for Bedrock Anthem before it had premiered anywhere.
Awesome.
He had the great, video barrage intro of all the ridiculous clips, and just did a great job as host, as you would expect. He knocks it out of the park any time he performs. And so afterwards, I went up to him because I thought, well, I can.
Yeah.
And it's approachable, and, maybe he thinks I'm somebody because I'm in this room, so I could actually talk to him. And I was, being a fan, I was like, hey, Al, I noticed in the video intro, Letterman, like, when were you on Letterman? And he goes, no, I wasn't on Letterman. There was a bit where Letterman looks into the audience and goes, hey, look at that guy. There's the winner of the Weird Al Yankovic lookalike contest. Because it was like a barrage of people saying Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
And, I think I showed him, I had Rastafarian Vans I was very proud of. I was like, Al, check out my Vans. My friend wanted him to sign. He had a check. It was like a blank check. Like, would you sign it? I think he signed it Mel Torme. Like he was just gracious and funny and real.
Yeah.
And like just everything you'd hope for. Like he was just, you felt like you were talking to him, and he was, just like a cool, weird guy that you'd hang out with. But he was also this incredible entertainer who'd just come off stage.
Yeah.
Like that he could have just said, get out of my way. I'm tired,
I've never even gotten once I'm sorry. Weird Al, I understand that he was a little freaked out or he was exhausted. I've never even gotten one of those. It's always exactly what you're describing. Somehow that grace never falters. I don't get it.
He was, once again, met him at another industry event. It was like a National Songwriters Hall of Fame thing. Randy Newman was performing that night. And my friend, this lifelong friend, Jason, who we saw the concert with, he was working for this company, Discmakers, and we got to go. And it was, we were in like the VIP room. It was like Art Garfunkel and Randy Newman.
crap.
And like to see Randy Newman see Weird Al and go, hey, Al! Like,
Holy
you're
shit.
like, oh, wow, I'm watching these two brilliant
Wow.
geniuses. And once again, very approachable, very, I think I was like, said something like, because I knew that he was forced into doing these like compilation albums sort of before their time. I was like, oh, Al, like I saw the another cartoon cover. I knew that you didn't sanction. I knew to stay away. And he was like, yeah, I know my record company makes me do that. Like it was the Food album. And it was like, because you felt like, oh, I want new Weird Al. I don't want to buy a repackage.
Yeah.
Like there was a time where they were putting out a lot of repackagings, and so you're working on it? He's like, oh, I just was in the studio. I just cut a couple new tracks. And I was like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I think those tracks at the time was the end of 95. So it would have been, I think, Everything You Know Is Wrong, and maybe the U2 parody, Cavity Search. He had just recorded. He didn't tell me at the time, but just that he was just talking to you like I just recorded some new tracks, as opposed to
amazing.
Like, get away from me,
Yeah.
And he was graciously posed for goofy pictures with us, just like, just the best. Like, you left feeling like, I am absolutely within my right to be a total fan of this super cool, funny guy.
Yeah.
And then the final time was that that my friend, who's a very well-known movie editor, was friends with the guy who owned the recording studio where he had recorded Running with Scissors. So I got to go with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, to the listening party for Running with Scissors, which I just felt like, and Al had another fanzine after this called Midnight Star.
Okay.
That I was like submitting stuff to and kind of writing for. And like, I didn't even want to tell them I was there. Like, I felt like I shouldn't be here, but I was like, but I can't not go.
Of course.
And so my wife still makes fun of me because we sort of stayed till the end because I kind of wanted to be able to talk to Weird Al. But in that setting, this was at a point where, because it wasn't a big thing, it was like an intimate thing that was his. I felt somehow like an interloper. And I was also at the time, like, in my career, I had just signed a deal with Fox TV Studios, but I wasn't known. And I sort of felt like I'm not known enough to be an industry person to be here, but I'm not just a fan. I kind of want to relate at a peer level, but I'm not at that level.
Sure.
So I felt kind of clammed up, but wouldn't leave. So my wife and I were like cleaning up pizza, with him and his girlfriend at the time. And just, my wife was looking at me like, what, why are you not saying anything? Like, she's like, I'm talking to Weird Al. He's super nice and you're not saying anything. And I just like felt shy, like, because it's always the people, I think. And it's funny because I hadn't felt shy at those other times. And I don't know if it was because there were a lot of people around. I knew that it would be a short interaction, but here it was like behind the scenes. And I think it is the people that you really love when you're that 12, 13, 14, that make you nervous. Like, I've met huge stars that I haven't been nervous around at all.
Sure.
And worked with. But for whatever reason, at that moment, I'd like to believe that if I met Weird Al again now, we could have a normal conversation. But at that time, I was not secure enough to be like, hey, Al, it's me. I'm the guy that writes for Midnight Star, and I've been a fan since forever.
You just keep that in your bag at all times and just scream like a little child when you see him next.
Yeah, that's really perfect.
Sign this!
Yeah,
just do that.
That'll go well.
That'll work, right?
I'm sure.
Did I ask you what your favorite track off this album is, by the way? I don't know if I asked you your favorite track.
Oh, well, I think I would go with Dog Eat Dog, but because it's just so cool and musically great.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me.
But I do think, like I said, the Polka medley is terrific. Living with a Hernia. Addicted to Spuds, I like. I liked it a lot live when he had the giant Mr. Potato Heads performing with him. That was wonderful. Christmas at Ground Zero, terrific satire. And then what's interesting on this album is that there are just some straight up, like, I actually really enjoy, I'll say, as a fan of music that is music first and funny second, there's a lot of music out there. I mean, look, Randy Newman, Jonathan Richman, there's some terrific music. They're not comedy artists, but they're doing very witty stuff. And I actually really like when Weird Al ventures into that territory, and it isn't I have to have a bunch of jokes.
Sure.
Like Skipper Dan is a great example.
Yeah.
Like, that could be a great song for anybody.
I agree, yeah.
And so there's two songs on this, Don't Wear Those Shoes and One of Those Days, that are very funny, but they're straight ahead, like rockers or pop. I guess Don't Wear Those Shoes is more pop, and One of Those Days is more straight up rocker. They're just good songs.
Yeah.
They'd be good songs for anybody. I think on a Weird Al tribute album, they were both covered in interesting ways by other musicians.
Okay.
And so I just really enjoy that. I like when he's just like, hey, this is a fun song that I wrote, and it doesn't have to hit the gag each time. It's just like, it's in this vein, and it's just a fun song.
Yeah.
Party at the Leper Colony. I guess that's more gag oriented, but that's a
Still.
great song too. And so he's got a number of those throughout his catalog.
I kind of realized the other day that Weird Al is throwing me in terms of my appreciation for comedy music, because we just started talking about Martin Mull for the first time. We just recorded our 6th anniversary show, and my guest was James Urbaniak, and I've never done this on the show before, and I was like, explain yourself. That is so I gave him the hour to convince me. And I won't say I'm convinced, but I think I'm so used to, again, the more straightforward comedy stuff.
Right.
That that is my expectation anytime I know there's a comedian making music.
Right.
And so I'm having to readjust my brain accordingly.
That's so interesting. Well, and also the level of production. I mean, you have to it's so sophisticated, and that's eventually why I sort of gave up on Demento. Is like by the a few albums in, Weird Al was blowing everybody out of the water.
Of course,
it was hard to listen to like a tinny recorded like bad vocal in relation to the mix song on Demento because Weird Al had it just fucking down.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Martin Mull, actually, when I first, because again, it's an age thing, like Mull came before, so I wasn't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
But Weird Al actually was one of the, he performed on a 1990 Just for Laughs special with Bob Newhart. To see Bob Newhart intro Weird Al was super cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And with Dave Thomas of SCTV and Martin Mull. And Martin Mull ended doing this song where it was, you think it's a love song that he's trying to be sophisticated and speak in French, and the punchline is hors d'oeuvre.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just say hors d'oeuvre. And that was when I was like, oh, Martin Mull, I get it. Like Martin Mull, was this cool musical guy. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So it took until then for me to get it.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to revisit just for the sake of, that's the exact example, by the way, of James Urbaniak's first experience, I think, with Martin Mull. That song, but just previous years, I think, on The Tonight Show is where he saw it first.
Right.
And so same kind of thing. So I keep acting like I'm super smart for loving Weird Al's deeper stuff, and then it's like, oh, clearly I still need to be hit over the head every once in a while to get the joke.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and this, like we said earlier on, like I was deep into my fandom, and this album didn't do that well, and it didn't matter to me. Like I just figured Weird Al would endure forever, and it was interesting years later when he would say, oh, I thought maybe my career was over.
Yeah.
And it never even occurred to me at the time that maybe his career was over, because to me it was like, well, there'll always be room for Weird Al.
Right.
Like, yeah, some hit, some don't, but like, of course he'll get more records. It just was not even a question. But I put the Living with a Hernia pictures from the video in my locker. I eagerly anticipated his appearance as the Cabbage Man from Outer Space on the Amazing Stories show. Like each milestone, I was like, yeah, Weird Al, he's just getting bigger and bigger. Like it never thought like, oh no, maybe there won't be a Weird Al. That was just like not even in my mind. And so of course UHF was like, this is the pinnacle, the Weird Al movie. Excuse me, the cats are getting to me.
It's so much fun. It's that movie's a lot of fun.
Well, what's interesting is, so my son is 14, and he loves it as much as me. We've been watching it periodically since he was probably about 8.
Wow.
And he doesn't know what UHF is, but he gets that it is the forebearer of YouTube style like he gets that instinctively. It wasn't like I had to explain it to him. He's like, oh no, like I mean he loves it. It's one of our favorite movies, and it holds up. And I saw it, no one will believe me, but I saw it 3 times in the theater.
That's awesome.
Because it had a national sneak preview the week before, which I always thought, that's not cool, because that meant a whole bunch of box office went to Great Balls of Fire. It should have gone to UHF.
Right.
So I saw it then I saw it when it officially came out on the 21st, and then I saw it the next weekend on the 28th, and then it wasn't around anymore.
Yeah.
And so, but I prided myself on, to see it in a theater. I mean, even it's not my movie, but I felt like, oh, Weird Al's arrived.
It's so good.
An odd thing is that, so my name and Weird Al's appear on a documentary together because I executive produced a documentary called Candyman about the inventor of the Jelly Belly jelly bean. Oh, wow. And I came on in post, and they had already shot an interview with Weird Al. Oh. And so they had a festival. I saw it at a festival, and I was like, I love this movie, guys. I really want to help. And so, we gave him notes. We sort of recut it for release and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but I came in as an exec producer later and helped it get birthed into the world. And I was so thrilled that, like, oh my God, my name and Weird Al's name will be in the same credit block.
So good.
But of course I didn't get to meet him in conjunction with that because it was done at separate times. But just a funny footnote.
It's just nice that you're always going to be this nerd. It's good. It's really good. It's super positive.
I've totally just opened up my complete nerddom to you on this show. And I don't always get a chance to do that when I'm doing serious or not so serious documentaries.
Of course not. Yeah, I get it. Now, so do you have a way to condense why to listen to this album? Let's say somebody doesn't know Weird Al, and this somehow, I know this is not necessarily this wouldn't have been your first choice, but let's treat it as somebody has to listen to this for the first time.
My first choice.
Okay.
So let's say I would say, as with all, it's a great snapshot of the state of mid 80s pop music. Like, because it's a lot of the parodies sort of have a lot of like synthesized sounds, like even the El DeBarge sound. Like, I remember thinking like, wow, how do you get those keyboard sounds? Like, Weird Al always kept up with the times in that sense. The polka medley is like 1986 pop music to a T. The James Brown resurgence, the Robert Palmer parody, like these things stick around. Talking Heads, like they had just come off a huge album. David Byrne was going to make a movie, like, and then this sort of like, to do a classic Christmas song. I think it sort of, it hits a number of bases for a Weird Al fan that you might not realize you need to circle. So I would say for sure, like if you haven't listened to it or gone back and really tried to enjoy it, you're in for a treat, because even I would say, and you mentioned this earlier, Good Enough for Now, totally underrated.
Yeah.
I always thought, and maybe I'll get to do it with somebody, I always thought that it should be used in a film. I could see it being used in a film.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe I'll get to use it in a film.
Oh, that'd be good.
But you could just imagine it being the wonderful, sarcastic on montage,
And I've had the same thought about some of his other originals. I'm surprised that just hasn't cropped up in a movie before. Maybe people just think it's going to be too strange and out of place, but no, in the right movie, Weird Al would be perfect. Yeah.
Well, did you watch the Goldbergs when he played his 80s version of himself?
No, I did not get to see that.
Amazingly, pretty much the same. It's very good. You should watch it, because it really was clearly, Adam F. Goldberg is clearly a Weird Al fan.
Giant nerd,
and has written great lines for Weird Al, and it's just like, it's perfect. But I remember reading, because they use King of Suede in the montage, and like a sort of, I think like a Say Anything type moment between Adam and his girlfriend. But I thought, gee, why a parody? And then I read that they had used in the Temps Good Old Days. And I guess some people thought, oh, this song is a little like, it's what we were talking about earlier, the subversive side of Weird Al.
Yeah.
And I thought, and probably was too strong for some people.
Interesting.
It's funny, I ended up doing, one of the documentaries I did was a music doc called Troubadours, about the singer-songwriter scene. James Taylor, Carole King, and the Troubadour Club. And I never had the nerve to ask James Taylor if he had heard Good Old Days. But I was always curious.
Yeah.
Because I thought, God, did they nail it? Not only is it lyrically brilliant and dark and funny, but the vocal stylings, right down to the Russ Kunkel bongo and the like Lee Sklar bass. And so then when I got to like be around those guys, I kept thinking like, this is incredible. Like, their musicianship, and that Weird Al had nailed it. And I just kept always wondering, like, what did they think of that? But I never asked.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to come out March 8th, unless you've got something to promote sooner.
I don't. I'm in production on stuff now that I won't be out for a while. I'm just doing this for the love of talking comedy records with you. I mean, people can certainly, Chelsea Does, the documentary series that I did with Chelsea Handler, is on Netflix and evergreen. It's always there.
Yeah.
So
any artist should go see Beauty is Embarrassing. Now, is it still on Netflix right now?
I don't know if it's on Netflix.
I don't think it is.
I'm sure it's on iTunes and Amazon and stuff like that. I mean, Beauty is Embarrassing, and Neil Berkeley, who directed it, I exec produced, is really, I think, as you were about to say, like, as any creative person, anyone who loves to create but also wants to have balance in their life, like family and love, and how do you navigate all that, and how do you try to be successful but be true to yourself, like, all of those ideas are in that movie. And it was important to me. Like, I felt like, oh, these are messages I could get behind.
And as a result of that, Wayne White was one of my favorite guests on this podcast ever. Just so much fun.
Wayne is terrific. We wanted to actually do a series around Wayne, and I still think there is a terrific series around him to do.
Oh, God, yeah.
Morgan Neville and I, and Neil Berkeley. But yeah, Wayne is great. And I mean, anyone should seek out Wayne's art, whether it's at an installation, because he's doing stuff everywhere. He has a terrific coffee table book. And if you, for those listening who haven't seen Beauty, about a third of it is a sort of behind the scenes of Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, it is.
So that's like an amazing little, beautiful trip on its own.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anywhere online people can follow you, or do you
They
prefer
can.
not to be followed?
I'm public, but I lock my account and keep it private. I don't understand that. No, I'm on Twitter as Eddie_Schmidt.
Okay.
SCHMIDT.
Perfect.
Yes, and you can find me there.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. It was a total treat, man. I appreciate it.
You need to come back. You absolutely need to come back. Give yourself some time to, recover from the cats, but you do need to come back.
Thanks. I realized I could talk about a non-Weird Al comedy album, which is Great White North. I don't know if you've done that.
We've done it.
Okay. All right. Well,
but I think maybe
we'll
only
talk.
the once.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites, though.
Oh,
So it'll be fun to talk about.
Okay.
If you at this point we're still doing it, comedy album a day. I'm doing a video. I'm trying to do them every day. I'm listening to a comedy album a day, and on YouTube.com/comedy on vinyl. I'm just talking about my first impressions. So a lot of these are me being a fresh, just complete greenhorn about these things. Greenhorn. Am I a prospector? But so those are coming out all this year. I've got a movie called Looking Forward 2016 that came out last year as a series of blogs. This year it'll be cut into a fake documentary. I think that's about it. And subscribe to us, all that good shit. But again, Eddie, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for
Go
listening.
forth and be funny, everyone.
Yes, please do. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of Stolen Dress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Worden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klamm. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. Please visit stolendress.com to listen to our other podcasts, read our blogs, read our tweets, watch our videos, and read our books. Please subscribe on iTunes, and if you like us, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. You can find us on Facebook.com/ComedyOnVinyl, Twitter @ComedyOnVinyl, and find everything else at ComedyOnVinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit StandUpRecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune into the new Stand Up channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast.